Alright, hello, welcome to another video, long time no see. After this video is uploaded, I will be live on twitch.tv/Moku with 3Gs at the end. It is gonna be a co-stream for TanoCon, and we're gonna have some fun before that, just doing some random missions, maybe doing some Riven giveaways, some stuff like that, opening relics, just the classic stuff that I do on stream on a regular basis. But after that, we're gonna co-stream TanoCon. Also, I'm not sure what's going on with my armor here and why it's broken like this. That kind of bothers me, and it also clips through the weapon, so let me just get right into the weapon before that bothers me even more. We're comparing Wrath and Pride today, the two new scythe weapons from the Jade Status Constellations update. These are the two scythes that are wielded by Sirius and Orion, and I'm gonna say that I have a Riven in both of them to just try to get as much power of them as possible, because I think the second day of the update I actually got a Riven for both of them, so you're gonna see these at max power pretty much. Now, when it comes to Wrath, you would think this is the better weapon of the two, but it's actually not. This one is far worse than Pride. Its mechanics are pretty interesting, where basically this one is crit based, and when you slam attack, is it slam attack or heavy slam attack? No, just slam attacks. So either a normal or a heavy slam attack, it gives you a critical chance per enemy hit for 10 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. The stacking mechanic is a bit weird. Like, from what I see in the UI, you actually have to hit all 10 enemies or something, or else it doesn't stack, or you have to hit different enemies every time. It's a bit weird on how it works, but this maxes out at 150% crit chance, obviously. And Pride is the same exact thing, but for status chance, and this one is status based, so you get 150% status chance at max stacks. Now obviously these are both for slam attacks, so you would think that you would probably need to build this for slam. And while this is true for Wrath, for Pride it's a bit different. And I would say that Pride, spoiler alert, Pride is a lot better than Wrath. I'm not sure how that's possible, but Wrath kinda sucks. I'm not sure why it sucks, but it kinda sucks. Its damage is very low, especially for a slam weapon. This deals minimal damage, and in general I tried a lot of builds on both of them. On Wrath I found only one viable build, and even that one viable build is not very good. However, for Pride I found two builds that were in theory viable, and I really tried to make something that's not melee influence actually work, but melee influence was the thing that I wanted, that I needed to do in order to make it work. There was no other way around it, sadly. No matter what I tried melee duplicate, I tried melee afflictions, I tried so many things, and it was just melee influence. Melee influence was just so much better than all of them. So, Wrath is obviously a slam weapon. If you see, the attack speed is a bit high on the base, so if you have any attack speed buff like I do here for the Wisp, you can slam pretty frequently. The issue is the damage is minimal. I'm using Eclipse right now, a maxed out build where I tested the build and saw which would do the most damage, and this one was it. And it's honestly kind of pathetic. You would probably need a Kullervo to make this work. Right now, as is, I'm red critting for 800,000 damage on a heavy slam attack. And I'm seeing sometimes as low as like 50,000 damage. It's not unusable per se, it's not like impossible to use this, but it's really bad. Like, you would expect something better than the weapons from Sirius and Orion, right? Wrath is sadly not it. Wrath is just really underpowered. Right now we're using the only arcane that felt usable on this weapon, which was the corrosive arcane, melee exposure. So 240% extra corrosive damage, or just as much damage as possible. And even on unarmored units I'm dealing like 7.7 million damage at most with Eclipse. Like, it's super low. It's super low. Any decent slam weapon here, and even any underrated slam weapon like the Jackie Tag, absolutely mobilous. We saw a 12 million finally, one decent number, but I think I had both Kavat Buff and Arcane Avenger to get red crits instead. And you know, you can probably force red crits by going for Sacrificial Steel instead of Galvanized Steel. But from my test, when I tried Sacrificial Steel instead of Galvanized Steel, I would get red crits, but I would deal less damage with those red crits than I would deal with orange crits on the Galvanized. And bear in mind, this is with the Riven mode that has crit chance and electricity on it, so I am not sure how much better you can make this weapon. This weapon is like kind of max for me at this point, and it still doesn't deal incredible damage. I'm kind of disappointed in it, to be honest. But I will say, they both look amazing, so if you want to use them, go ahead. But I think Wrath out of the two is the worst one, which was a surprise to me because I thought this was going to be the better of the two. But I think it's because the mechanic is not giving enough crit chance, or that maybe, just maybe, the crit chance, like the base crit chance of the weapon, is a bit too low. Although I don't remember the mastery rank of these weapons, so if they're low mastery rank, it could make sense. But as a late game weapon or like anything of that sort, this is definitely not worth it in my opinion. Like, yeah, you can still make it work just like any weapon, but why would you take this instead of like any of the meta or even non-meta slam weapons? Like, you could use a Jati Tag, a Dark Sword, a Magistar, a Siberian Carnon. Like, you can use so many more weapons that are better than this Kona Meyer if you want to do the slam attack playstyle. And you could even use weapons that are not like slam attack dependent and do better than this. Like, there are genuinely so many weapons out there that you can use for slam attack purposes, and they're not even supposed to be built for slam attack, and they will do better than this. I don't understand why this is like this weak, but it sadly is. The sad part about both of our two-handed scythes is that they both have, or are these scythes? Yeah, they're scythes. These two-handed scythes, they have both 10% status chance on slam, so even with Pride giving it an extra 150%, it's still fairly low status chance. I'm waiting for the Acolyte so you can see the damage onto the Acolyte, but I think if it doesn't kill it in one hit, especially with Eclipse up and maxed out on my melee exposure attain, then, you know, this is a bust, but we'll see. But yeah, really low damage. Very, very disappointing. And for some reason there I got my heavy attack cancelled like 5 times in a row. I'm not really sure why. Where's the Acolyte? Am I killing so slowly that the Acolyte is like late? I might be. I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. But yeah, this is definitely a weapon you use for style and not actually to... Bro. Stop cancelling my heavy attacks! What the hell? What is that? Why is it getting cancelled? I'm not doing anything. What? What? Yo. Yo. What is wrong with this weapon? Hello? Why is it getting cancelled on its own? The heavy attack, the slam heavy attack is getting cancelled. I've never seen this before. I kind of felt like these weapons had a specific different, slam attack mechanic than the other weapons, but this is ridiculous. Why is the slam attack getting cancelled on its own? What is that? It doesn't happen on other slam weapons. Anyways. Okay, thank God. It at least one-shotted the Acolyte, so that's something. My God. But, yeah, I don't know. This weapon, definitely not it. Like, I'm not gonna say never use a weapon, but this one is just not great if you want to be... Well, not competitive. There's no competitiveness in this game, but you know what I mean. If you want to have a strong melee weapon, this one wouldn't be in my suggestions, let's say. It's still cool looking. I still like the way it looks. I just don't think it's viable, sadly. Even though I expected this one to be the stronger of the two, it's sadly just not great. And it is, at the end of the day, just slam slope. However, Pride, this one's actually quite nice. And I will kind of blame Melee Influence for the fact that it's quite nice, because I did try Melee Duplicate with a build that reached around, I think, 70% critical chance and close to 100% critical chance with a heavy attack build, like the heavy attacks. And honestly, compared to this, it was dealing so much less damage, it's insane. So, you know, if you want to try this, go ahead, but it sadly didn't work well, so I stuck with this one and the classic Melee Influence slope thing, because, I mean, it worked. I'm sorry, like, I wanted to be creative and do something different, but it didn't actually work, so I have to go back to Melee Influence. It is what it is. Speaking of though, the Melee Influence setup on this weapon is actually quite good, as this weapon is pure blast on the slam attack, and it gains quite a bit of status chance when you actually get the slam attacks up. So the idea is, you play melee normally until you get a Tennokai proc, and on the Tennokai procs you do heavy slam attacks. And these should proc blast on the area around, which paired with Melee Influence should spread blast procs all around the area, one-shotting pretty much anyone in the vicinity. That's the idea for it. Obviously with no combo counter and no kills, it won't actually happen just yet, but as you can see, obviously you don't have to wait for your Tennokai proc to start doing the slams. You can just do a slam, like if you're about to run out on the buff to Pride, you can just jump and do a regular slam attack, and that will repress the buff. So that's something to keep in mind. But yes, as you can see, Melee Influence obviously is quite overpowered, so it's doing its thing. And overall, this isn't too bad. It is because it's a status heavy weapon and we're abusing Melee Influence on it, but the pure blast on the slam attack does help, or on the heavy slam attack does help make it a bit better. Just a bit. Yeah. Still like kind of low damage numbers, but due to the nature of how Melee Influence works and how well this weapon can abuse Melee Influence, it's not too bad actually. Like, the slams can do something. So this one is the better of the two weapons, but sadly both weapons aren't that great. They're pretty mid, to be honest. But at least this one is usable. Like, you can do that, so that's pretty cool. I wish Melee Duplicate worked a bit better, but the damage from Melee Duplicate was honestly kind of pathetic. And maybe you would have to change your playstyle too much with Melee Duplicate, where you would do like a random regular slam attack so you don't knock people up in the air and take them too far away, and then you would just do the regular heavy attack to actually do damage. Like, yeah, that sounds kind of viable, but it's much easier and much better to just use this, sadly. So I don't see a reason to use the other one. But yeah, both of these weapons are pretty okay. This one's definitely the better of the two. But I wouldn't really recommend either of the weapons for a main melee weapon, sadly. At least they're easy to grind, so, you know, easy mastery rank for you guys, but as it comes to the viability of these weapons, they are just not the greatest. You can fix them, for sure. You can make them decent. And I think Pride, especially with Melee Influence, is not bad at all. Doesn't really compare to other Melee Influence weapons, it's not as good as them, but it's at least decent. Like, you can do stuff with it. If its status chance was just a bit higher, like it had 20% instead of 10% status chance, this one would have been a pretty good weapon, actually. I'm talking about slam attack, by the way. I'm sure somebody will say, oh, this has like 35% status chance. No, no, no. The slam attacks on these weapons have exactly 10% status chance. It is multiple, but it's 10% status chance, so, you know, who cares? I just think the two weapons are kinda underwhelming. Especially for weapons that looked so cool and had so much going on with them. It is what it is. At the end of the day, I tried my best to make them decent and I kinda failed. But I feel like Pride has way more potential, and especially if you do like something like regular slam attack and then combo and then normal heavy attack like that with melee duplicate or something like that. That could probably work. But yeah, see the coronal injection buff, like it can go up to 150, but for some reason I'm slamming the ground on new enemies and it just stays on 120. Like the buff and how it works, I don't really understand. There, now it's 150. Like I'm not really understanding what it's supposed to get more stacks from, because it's just hitting enemies, but sometimes I hit enemies and I don't get an extra buff. Like even if I'm hitting newer enemies, so I don't really get it. And there is the blast thing I was talking about. So, you know, that can happen. If we had more status chance on the slam attack, it would happen more often, which would make this weapon actually pretty good. But as it is now, it is still kind of mid, but at least better than Wrath. I will say that both of these weapons are kind of underwhelming. And that was the case for, I think, pretty much any weapon in this update, sadly. Except for the Incarnates, of course. The Incarnates were all really great. But as for every new weapon, the new weapons were just not really it, sadly. They were kind of underwhelming, all of them. Now, wait, let me check Master Rank real quick for these two. Because this might make more sense. No, 14 and 14. So no, Master Rank doesn't really make sense in these weapons either. They just have too low base stats, and obviously because they are two-handed scythes, the follow-through is horrible, so regardless, that it doesn't just make the weapons any better. If you try a different build, if you try like a regular melee build, it's gonna lose a ton of damage the moment you try to hit multiple targets at the same time. But yeah, I can feel like if you use regular slam attacks on this one and then heavy attack with the regular heavy attacks from the ground, then that could be better, maybe, for this build. But melee influence is still just better, sadly, for this weapon. And it's still not as great as something like the Thalis. The Thalis just completely destroys both of these weapons, so I don't see a reason to use them personally. But if you like how they look like, more power to you, feel free to use them. Thank you very much for watching another video of mine, and I will see you on the next one.